Earlier this year, I wrote an article about the preponderance of psychological studies that show us how difficult it is to actually convince a vaccine denier that vaccines are, in fact, safe and effective. A lot of this research shows us that just telling people the facts about vaccines can have some counterintuitive effects, like making them even more fervently anti-vaccine. And because all of that news is really depressing, I thought that I would shine a spotlight on a recent study that's come out with a possible solution as to how we can convince vaccine deniers. Scare the shit out of them. In a paper just published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, or PNAS, as I will always call it, University of Illinois researcher Zachary Horn has found that when he showed subjects pictures of children with vaccine-preventable illnesses, and when those subjects read the story of a mother whose child contracted measles, those subjects were much more likely to come away with positive feelings about vaccines compared to people who just heard the dry facts and figures about how vaccines do not cause autism and how they are safe and effective. This study jibes with previous research that has shown that younger people tend to be more fervently anti-vaccine than older people who personally experienced the horrors of diseases like polio and who truly understood the relief when vaccines came out. If you think of these diseases like polio and measles as just a natural thing that happens to you and not a big deal, then you will never really understand the importance of vaccines. Of course, this study isn't a slam dunk for science communicators. It is just one study, and it goes against previous research that has suggested even scare tactics can't help. But that said, it's a pretty good study. Unlike a lot of psychological research, it wasn't just done on college students. The subjects were recruited through Amazon's Mechanical Turk, and the researchers were actually able to compare the opinions of parents and non-parents, and they found that the two groups were pretty much the same. Plus, because the researchers gave the subjects a pretest to gauge their baseline opinion of vaccines, they were able to separate the vaccine deniers and see how they specifically were changed. Because if all of the change in opinion was happening with people who were already pretty warm to vaccines, then it doesn't really mean much. But what the researchers found was that the greatest change happened in the people who had the lowest opinion of vaccines. That is huge news. The other good news that this paper found was that, contrary to those previous studies, just giving someone the facts and figures about how vaccines are safe and effective didn't cause those people to further entrench themselves in their anti-vaccine attitudes. It wasn't enough to really help them, but at least it didn't actively cause harm, which is great news for science communicators who have been trumpeting the actual science of vaccines. So all told, this study isn't a concrete definite proof that scaring people is going to make them suddenly embrace vaccines, but it is compelling evidence that maybe our past research on this has not been the full story. And that's a little bit of good news, which I think we can really use right now.